Felstead from EPSRC on well, a new scheme that's sort of starting on the UKRI for funding this sort of work. But over to you.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I can see you all. So yeah, thanks for inviting me along. And yeah, it's really interesting to join you today. I was interested to hear the end of that last talk, having previously worked on the Global Challenges Research Fund within UKRI. So interesting to hear the kind of the global perspective. So yeah, so my name's Rob Felstead. I'm a Deputy Director at EPSRC. So that's the Engineering and Physical Sciences part of UKRI. And the reason why I'm here today is to talk about our Tackling Infection strategic theme, which is a cross UKRI strategic theme. And I sit on the program board for that has lots of representatives from all parts of UKRI. So I've kind of got a broader hat on today talking about UKRI generally. So I'm going to share some slides with you, which I'm very happy for you to have afterwards, because there are sort of various bits and details on that I would like you to have, but I don't necessarily want to spend all of my time talking to all the words on the slide. So I'll try to zip through those and leave a bit of time for questions at the end, if that's okay. So I will share my screen now and then move on to the presentation. Okay, so as I said, yeah, so this theme, this kind of presentation is around the strategic theme. So just to give a little bit of background, the UKRI strategic themes, these are cross-cutting themes that UKRI identified in its strategy, published a couple of years ago now, looking for really it's things that cut across different research councils, so the whole UKRI system really, but things that are kind of addressing large national and global challenges. So that's the point of the strategic themes. I'll give you a bit about the money because I'm a funder and we like to talk about money. This is the kind of our spending review outcome kind of explainer that you can find on our website, and it talks about kind of who gets different bits of money. This is the total over 3 years, if you're wondering what these numbers are. And so there's a bit on the bottom right, that box there, that has the cross-cutting element of things. So that's nearly 3 billion over 3 years, and that's where the strategic themes budget comes from. So these are not only strategically important things, but we've given them some money as well, and we've given them some money this spending review, which goes to 2025. And we've also given them some money for the spending review afterwards, even though we haven't got our settlement yet. So we've committed that money into the future, which is what we have to do as a funder, given that grants outlast governments, etc. So this is kind of the finance sort of picture and kind of where that money comes from. And we have given over those 6 years, 75 million to each of the themes. So what are the themes? So they're all here. Building a green future, securing better health, aging and well-being, tackling infections, building a secure and resilient world, and creating opportunities and improving outcomes. So these are the different cross-cutting themes. I've highlighted the tackling infections one here, as that's what I'm talking about today, which has kind of this broad kind of ambition around protecting and enhancing health and our food supply by protecting natural capital. And building kind of knowledge and capabilities to detect and identify emergence and spread of human, animal, plant, and disease. So we're trying to kind of cover all the aspects of that in our overarching thing. However, we have focused on various areas in our actual delivery, which I'll come to in a second. This kind of gives you a bit of the background. I probably don't need to tell you this. You probably had a lot of this today, so I won't spend too long. But obviously, you're aware of the scale of the challenge and why it's important. What we've been trying to do as UKRI is obviously we have funded a lot of stuff around this space. Obviously, we did a lot of stuff over the last few decades, but also we did a lot of additional work during the COVID pandemic as well. So quite a lot of different work on this. However, we wanted to kind of build on that and add value to it with a kind of additional funding and a kind of a strategic approach. So just to give you, this hopefully should be sort of fairly interesting, which is the kind of the sort of existing portfolio that kind of went into our sort of decision making. So as you can see, a lot of the funding kind of across the research councils, obviously as you would expect, the Medical Research Council and BBSRC have sort of most of the funding relevant to this area, but then also Innovate UK, EPSRC, some future leader fellows, and then the other research councils as well. So kind of a big spread, but as you might expect, kind of a certain kind of like level, quite a lot of kind of skew towards those focused for the medical and biological end, which is again what you'd expect. So how did we describe our theme? Obviously, we wanted to have a strategic overview of it. And so this circle here is quite good for that. So we've got animal, plant health, and human health, and then the various kind of different sort of systems around that. And so, you know, because this is a cross-disciplinary fund, we are trying to take a more holistic systems approach to what we're doing, drawing on all the various disciplines that the research councils can offer. Okay, and I won't spend too long on this slide. I'll be lying if I told you if I knew what every acronym means on it. However, what it does show you is that there are a lot of there's a lot of activity in this space. If we just think about, you know, the things that are kind of nationally involved, you know, on the left-hand side, we've got the 100 Days Mission, we've got the Biological Security Strategy, we've got the AMR Action Plan that was recently published, the National Food Strategy, the Environment Plan, and a lot of these things were published when we had a different government. Okay, so it's quite a complex sort of policy landscape. We have a lot of UKRI investments, as that graph I alluded to earlier showed you. And then there's the international picture, which is obviously absolutely huge in this area. And of course, the UK does put a lot of money into some of these international programs as well. So there's a lot going on. So as UKRI, we have to ask ourselves the question, how do we add value to this? So just to give you a sense of what we've actually invested in so far with our theme. We had what we called was an amplification phase, and this was to spend some of the earlier tranches of money that came through the theme. And you can see there's a range of things here, sort of across different disciplines, including a centre for doctoral training, so some training there, a mini sandpit on novel technologies, which is something that sort of came through the EPSRC that I was involved in, and another range of things. There's also the ecology and evolution of infectious diseases. This is a program that's been going for a while now that is fully international, and EPSRC actually used to put some money from our maths theme into this. It's now getting funding from the strategic theme from UKRI. So we know that mathematicians are very interested in that particular call, and that's been kind of ongoing for a number of years now and a number of cohorts. So that was our amplification phase. So this was less strategic. This was more about supporting what was out there and what already and what was relevant. So then our more strategic activity, this was looking at what we called our flagships, and we had two areas. So this is important. We had two specific areas that we focused on. One was epidemic preparedness, and one was antimicrobial resistance. So I'll start with antimicrobial resistance, actually, the bottom paragraph. What we look to do here is fund some networks, and then the idea is we'll fund some research programs after that. Those networks have been announced. They were announced last month, and that was the idea to bring different disciplines together around the topic of antimicrobial resistance. And then the second flagship area is epidemic preparedness. So what we've done is we've put a call out for some sort of a seed kind of funding to get ideas together, and then there will be a larger scale program that will be launched soon. Now, you don't have to have got funding in the first phase to get the second phase. This is completely open. What we are trying to do is use that first phase to drive groups together. So if there are people in the room that are involved with some of these, that just to let you know, they will be the announcement will be coming soon. If you're not involved, do take a look at that when that announcement comes out, because there might be networks out there. There might be programs that want some sort of mathematics involvement or modeling involvement that you could help with. So do have a look at those. And also there might be, when the full call comes out, there might be things you might think, actually, this is something that I think we could lead, we could do. So do pay attention to that, because that is to come. And then just to say, on our phase 2, we will be having a sort of augmentation of what we've done on phase 1, and perhaps filling some gaps for some of the things that we could fill. But the details are to be confirmed, and also some of this, to a certain extent, depends on what happens with our spending review with the new government. So there's a bit of uncertainty here, but that's kind of currently where our plans are. And one thing just to say that we're quite pleased about these themes in UKRI, in the sense that tackling infections as a strategic theme within UKRI is not just about the sort of some of the money that I talked to you about, but it's also a really good place for sort of officers within UKRI to coordinate what they're doing, to talk about how we can talk together to government, how we can work on various sort of problems. It's kind of a forum when a lot of, when new diseases come up that might be a threat, like Mpox, for example, and we've had a lot of discussions around avian influenza recently as well in the US. So, you know, we do use this as a way to kind of talk about these sort of various things, yeah, various sort of threats that are coming up and new opportunities. So, yeah, I thought that was my last slide. So that's my email address there if you want to follow up. Otherwise, I'll stop and leave it to questions or the panel session. I can't remember what we were doing next. So,
great, thank you very much. So we do have a few minutes, so we could put if there's any questions for Robert now, then go ahead. Yes, go.
Hi Robert, Chris Jewell from Lancaster University. Just wondering what the appetite is for funding translational software projects. So that's engineering projects that essentially package up lab bench quantitative methodology that a few of us might be working on to make it fit for purpose for people who might be more kind of application focused.
yeah, sure. So, I mean, I guess sort of, you know, I mean, in terms of sort of specifics, I guess they've got various routes. I mean, it depends really, you know, it might be that it's something that could fit in with one of our regular schemes or one of the calls, or it might be something that fits better with interdisciplinary responsive mode, which, you know, is a new scheme for UKRI. So I wouldn't be able to give you any specific advice without knowing exactly kind of what the focus is. But certainly if it's something that is, you know, addressing a problem and has that element of novelty that gets peer reviewers excited for that particular scheme, then certainly that's something we could support.
A question online.
Oh, go ahead. Can you read it out?
Yeah, sure. So this in the voice of Carl Pearson. Prior to the pandemic, my experience was that UKRI viewed infectious disease modelling as belonging to either biosciences or MRC, neither of which were particularly keen to actually fund that activity. They wanted wet new lab tech, new drugs, devices, and not high-performance computing, for example. Can you speak to whether that's shifted at all? And the plan you described seems compatible with the shift, but it also seems like if people want to continue to preferentially direct funding to drugs, devices, microscopes, etc., that could also happen. Does that make sense as a question?
It does. I don't know if I can comprehensively answer that. I mean, yeah, you know, there's you know, it is interesting. I mean, obviously, to a certain extent, COVID changed everything, and then it didn't. You know, we were very quick to kind of come up with additional funding, and you know, if you look at the case study, and this doesn't even include the stuff that we funded over the years on vaccines, which obviously had a huge impact. But if you look at the case studies of all the sort of emergency stuff we funded through the COVID program, the impact was huge actually, and modelling was a huge part of that. Even included the economic modelling that was used for furlough. You know, so there's some really interesting, you know, things that we've supported as a result of that. I suppose one of our challenges then going forward is, you know, that level of agility was required because it was an emergency. Then the question is, how do we keep this going forward? And that's something that we are looking at. And one area that we are talking to the Department of Health and Social Care about is actually how we have a research framework for pandemic preparedness, and how through that we identify the research gaps that we can work together to support. So if you know, if there are obvious gaps coming through, such as, you know, around modelling, etc., then, you know, we should be able to use that framework to help drive some of that work. But you know, it's you know, so I think it has changed it, but it's probably not changed it as much as you might have thought it would have done, given how much of an impact COVID had.
Thomas?
So on the COVID funding, has there been any looking into the impact of those awards being very short term on the early career researchers involved? So as a non-early career researcher, it's okay to have a 12-month grant. But for the people employed on those, I suspect it's well, not just suspect, right? I'm speaking on their behalf because they often don't feel very empowered to do that. It's not really ideal. Has there been any assessment of that and that short-term funding, and whether there's ways not so much of just gifting the PIs involved in that, but looking after early career researchers who might have had to take time out of careers to do this succession of 6, 12, 18-month projects that obviously they were there in that structure for good reason during COVID, but that was a problem with that structure.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a widely acknowledged problem with contracts in general across UKRI. and we do think about this a lot. That's not to say that we've really solved the problem yet. I think, even, I mean, it's good if you can get 3 month, goodness, if you get 3-year contracts, for a lot of our projects, but of course that still means you spend, 6 months of that at the end looking for another job, so we're aware of these issues, and the practicalities around it is something that we're looking to address through some of our collective talent work. But no, we do see that, and actually I think with the COVID pandemic, some of it was around repurposing people who were already employed on projects as well. So we were trying to make use of what was there, and we did. I mean, it was an incredible response from the community in the sense that you'd have something that you just paused for several months just to work on COVID. But no, we are aware of these sort of career issues, and it's something that we are looking to try and address through our funding mechanisms, whether that be through longer grants for certain areas, or various other types of sort of seed funding that can be used to support early career researchers.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Robert. I think we should leave it there. We're pretty much on time. So thanks again.